Thank you and good evening. Folks, my name is Matt Forshee. I'm the President and CEO of the Fayette County Development Authority. I'd like to say, again, thank you for having me out tonight for this planning session. I will admit I am a recovering planner. Before I got into economic development, I did what Kofi does and doing these studies and doing land planning activities, and was a joy, but I'm doing what I do now in economic development and want to tell you a little about that tonight. The Fayette County Development Authority is a county-wide organization. Not a lot of people know about us. We're appointed by, we have a board that's appointed by the county commissioners, Peachtree City, the city of Tyrone, the city of Fayetteville, and the airport authority. And this board is responsible really for a two-pronged mission. Number one, to recruit high-paying quality jobs to the county and to diversify the tax base. From a citizen standpoint, when you pay your property taxes every year, a large portion of that is divided up between the school board for education, about 60% roughly. The rest of that is split between the counties, a portion to the city that you live in. And in most cases for residential property, on a whole, residential property demands more in services, whether it's fire, EMA, utilities. It demands more in services than it pays in taxes. On the flip side, commercial and industrial properties are just the opposite. They tend to pay more in taxes than they demand in services. So our goal as a development authority is to work to bring in new employment sectors, new jobs, new industry, because as a tax diversification issue, they help offset your property taxes going up as a residential property owner. From Peachtree City's standpoint, we all know over the last few years, the last 20, 30 years, Peachtree City has been the main economic engine of Fayette County. You look at the industrial segment of our community, the industrial base, vast majority is in Peachtree City, the industrial park, the area down Highway 74. One of the main challenges Peachtree City is going to have over the next few years, though, is the availability of undeveloped industrial property, property that is zoned and infrastructure, whether it's transportation, utilities, ready to go for industrial development. That is getting very, very small in comparison to the entire industrial park. Within the next few years, we're going to probably see a build-out of that industrial property that is zoned. And the impact that has is it makes it more difficult for the county as a whole to bring in new industry to help offset those tax-based issues I covered a minute ago. One of the challenges that's going to pose is the need for redevelopment in Peachtree City. Some of our older sections of the industrial park, the buildings that are there now, if you look at how industrial properties develop today, they don't meet the specs and the needs of companies that are here today. The ceilings are too low. The spaces aren't designed right. The land actually becomes worth more than the building that sits on it is worth. The challenge is it costs more to tear down an old building, redevelop the site, clean up the site. One of our largest properties that is currently vacant in the industrial park is the former location of photo circuits. One of the challenges there is that because of the type of processing they did, there is the potential that any business that comes in there is going to have to do some form of environmental cleanup on that site in order to reuse it and make it usable in an industrial sense today. That makes it very much a challenge to redevelop some of those properties. So one of the big issues we see going forward for Peachtree City is redevelopment. How we accomplish that. Outside of industrial property, we also look at the actual citizenry, where Fayette County, Peachtree City, where its citizens work today. Nearly 70% of our population countywide is considered white-collar employment. But if you look at the employment base, the job base, the jobs that are actually here today, it's a much smaller percentage that are considered white-collar. It's much more blue-collar. What you get from that, and looking back at Kofi's presentation of the jobs to household numbers, you've got a large component of the workforce in Fayette County and Peachtree City that's commuting out of the county for jobs. Yet the jobs that are here, we become more of a regional employment center. We're bringing in folks from Coweta. We look at changing how we do some things. Do we start recruiting even more office, corporate-type development that meets those workforce numbers, those average salary numbers of $70,000 and up? Is that what we want to see for the future, and how do we do that from a redevelopment standpoint? As a whole, we see a continued bright future for Fayette County and Peachtree City, but there are some challenges ahead. We look forward to working with that and working with Peachtree in meeting those challenges ahead of us.